Chapter 5 Eels and Clams. Jack looked at Annie. "We can't stay here," he said. "What?" she said. "We can't go home now. The pilgrims need us to help them." "But we don't know how to do anything," Jack said. "And Squanto is going to figure out he doesn't really know us. And don't worry so much," Annie said. "We help Mom and Dad make our Thanksgiving dinner every year, don't we? We can help pilgrims, but we better hurry." Clutching the big basket, she started running towards the bay. Jack sighed and then he ran after her. At the rocky shore, they stopped and they looked around. Little waves rolled into the short stretch of sand, and the salty air felt clean and fresh. Seagulls swooped over the water. "I wonder where eels are," said Annie. "And clams." "I'll look in the book," said Jack, and he pulled out their book and he looked up eels in the index. He turned to the right page and he read out loud. Squanto showed the pilgrims a way to catch eels. He showed them how to push the eels out of the wet sand with their bare feet and then grab them with their hands. "Ooh, that sounds fun," said Annie. She put down her basket and pulled off her shoes and her stockings, and she held up her long skirt with one hand, and she walked over to the rocks, to the edge of the water. Jack put the research book back into his bag, and he pulled off his shoes and his stockings and joined Annie. They dug their bare feet in the wet sand. "I don't feel anything," said Jack. "Let's just wade into the water," said Annie, together as they stepped forward. "Brr," said Annie. "No kidding," Jack said with a shiver. He kept squishing the mud sand between his toes, and he felt the pebbles and the shells, and then he felt something soft. "Hey, I think I found one," he said. Annie splashed over to him. "Where?" "Stand back," he said. "Here." Jack squished harder with his feet, and the soft thing moved. Jack squished more, and an eel slithered through the water. Jack grabbed it with both hands. "Ah!" he yelled. Look at that icky thing. The eel was long and skinny like a snake, and it felt slimy and icky. It twisted and it squirmed. Annie laughed as Jack tried to hold it. The eel wriggled out of Jack's hand and fell against Annie. "Ah! Yikes!" She jumped and yelled away. She yelled and jumped away and backed right into Jack. With more screams, they both tumbled into the water. They scrambled up and splashed back onto the shore, and Annie was still laughing. "Poor eel," she said, trying to catch her breath. "We scared him half to death." "Him," said Jack. "Forget eels," Annie said, chattering her teeth. "What about clams?" Jack was wet and cold, but he took out the book again and he looked up clams. He turned to the right page and read out loud. Squanto taught the pilgrims how to dig for quahog clams. Quahog clams are hard shells. They can live for 60 years or more. The oldest have been known to live for almost 100 years. "Oh, forget it," Annie said, broke in. "What?" said Jack. "We can't catch them," she said. "They live to be so old. We can't just end their lives." Jack sighed. He sat down on the rock. Annie sat next to him. Their clothes were soaking wet. Their feet were caked in mud and sand, and their basket was empty. "What other things do pilgrim kids do to help?" said Annie. Jack opened the book again. He looked up in Pilgrim Children, and he read out loud. Pilgrim children, they worked very hard. They built fences, and they cared for animals. They planted they planted and they harvest corn. They picked peas and pumpkins and beans, and they guarded the fields. They fished and they hunted, and they carried water. They collected nuts. They cooked and they cleaned. They did everything they were told. They never complained about being tired. Oh man, I feel tired just reading this, said Jack, closing the book. We make lousy pilgrim children. Yeah, I know, said Danny. Maybe we could do something like keep an eye on the turkey and tell him when it's ready? Oh, that's how I help Mom every year. Annie, Thanksgiving in Frog Creek is a whole different story than from Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims, Jack said. Annie! Jack! A voice called. Jack quickly put away their book, and then they turned around. Priscilla was standing on the rock, and she held a pumpkin and carried a basket filled of yellow squash and red corn. I was looking for you, she said.